there is a login that you need to use for these two computers, and it's right on this tower here. It will speed up the sign-in if you use /mil and then go with the capital G, Raiders or the capital R. It's different than the engineering login. So you want to use that, and that also means then that you're not going to have access. Ideally, you'll have your file on a USB. There's two mills out there, and they are controlled by these two computers in a crisscross fashion. So this computer controls the mill we set up over there. This computer controls this one over there. We did it that way so that this way I can actually see the mill from here. If I were looking at, if this one were controlling that one, I wouldn't be able to see the mill. So often a reason behind the madness. Okay, what I usually do, you got the screen?
Yeah.
What I usually do is just come down here, and the program you want to find is called Techno. It says, I think it's actually something else. So you just go down to the search here and just type in Techno. Techno Stepper G-code interface is what you're looking for. And you just open that up. And you're going to get this window. Now this is an old interface, and we're running it on a new operating system, so there's occasionally some glitches, and I'll walk you through those as we encounter them. So the first thing you want to do, generally, is you want to preview your file. It's going to show you a picture of how the tool is going to move. It's not a very sophisticated picture, but it'll warn you whether or not you're going to run into the machine or if your origin's set wrong. So you go to preview, and it's going to ask you, well, where's your file? So you have to navigate to your file. Your file should be an NCD file. If you had the right machine definition in SolidWorks, in Mastercam, it'll be an NCD file with the DaVincis. For the Force Scientific large CNC router, it'll be an NC file, not an NCD file. But typically, if you just pick the right machine definition, you don't have to worry about that. Click on it. There's my preview. It's nothing exciting. In this case, I'm going to mill a pocket, a circular pocket, and a circular contour in that little piece of wood that's out there. What it's showing me is that the machine's going to start here relative to where I'm milling, and that's as I've got it set up out there, so that's good. The white means it comes up. All these white lines is where the machine isn't really, the bit isn't turning. Green means the bit is turning. So the machine's going to come up, it's going to come over. I can't tell if it's going to do the pocket or the contour first. I think the pocket. It starts spinning, it comes down, it mills out the pocket. A couple passes, does a cleanup pass. It comes up, stops turning, comes over to the contour, goes down. We'll do the contour once, comes up, and then back to the origin. That's what that is showing us. And the fact that it's relative to this origin and where it should be, that's good. If I saw this green stuff over here, I'd know my origin was wrong. If you hit the pan rotate, I think actually, yeah, if you just hit the up and down arrow, this will rotate the view. And what this is showing me is that my origin's here, and these cuts are down below the surface of my origin, which is as it should be, right? Because we want to cut into the wood. So I'd like you to use the preview just to verify that it looks right. The verify on Mastercam should be okay, but this is just a double check. And then we just hit, you can either hit exit or close, and then we may get an error. Sometimes we get an error here. So the next thing to do would be to translate execute. So you just hit this button, click on this part, and it's saying a new file will be created. It creates a new file before it prints. Then you just say OK, and it didn't give us the error. That's great. So now you're not quite ready. What you need to do is tell the machine where 000 is, that its current position that we've set it at, treat it as 000. So to do that, you almost always have, always have to do this. Go to jog. It'll take a minute to get to where I can change anything. And generally what you're going to want to do is go to 0 and then 0 all. And now it's set the X, Y, and Z axes, the origin to where it is over there. I can also, from this panel, if I wanted to, move the machine. So the jog feature allows you to take, and you can move the machine left, right, up, or down. This is up and down. This is left and right. This is in the Y direction, front and back. So if you had to move it a long ways and you really know what you're doing, you could do that from this window. But generally, I'm not going to want you to do that. I want you to set the bit manually where it should be start, and then we're going to come in here and just do 0, 0 all, and then exit jog. And this is where the error usually occurs. So you can hit OK to this error. Everything closes out, and you think that you're done and you can't get this done. But what I've found is if you just go to Techno again and open it back up and go to Translate and Execute and select your file again, you've done the jog. The jog is done. You don't have to redo it. Now you can start the program. When you hit start, it'll start running. But remember, we set that bit up a ½ inch, so what should happen is it's just going to mill in the air. So I'm going to start it. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to be ready to hit the red button if it looks like it's going to mill into something it should. But otherwise, I'm just going to watch and make sure it's milling too high. It's not going to mill anything, but it's going to be in the wood when it mills. Okay? So I'm going to hit start, and then we'll watch it. It'll count down, and then it'll start milling. And you're just watching to make sure that it's going to do what it's supposed to. So if we had started it flush with the wood, it would be cutting right now, but I raised it up. And this won't take very long, so I think I'll just go ahead and have it complete. But if you had a big project, maybe you'd only do the first pass just to make sure it's looking good and it looks like it'll fit in the wood. Then we're going to stop it. We're going to move it back to the origin by hand, manually, get it set to 0, and then we'll cut it. So it's doing the second pass of the pocket. It's cleaning up the edge of that pocket, the center pocket. It went down a little bit because I had 2 passes. Now it's going to come out and do the contour, the circle on the outside. Should just be 1 pass. Stop spinning, it goes back to where it started. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out there. You can just watch me through the window here. I'm going to go out there and reset the bit down to the wood, and we're going to cut it for real. When I go out there, I'm going to kill the power so it's easy to turn the hand wheels. I'll move it and I'll turn the power back on. In theory, you shouldn't have to move it this way or this way because we just had it went back to where it started, so all I had to do was lower it. In theory, you don't want to check, but and then you come over here and you just hit start again. This time, well, I'll hit start. Now, while it's cutting, it's going to make sawdust and it's going to make kind of a mess. And one of the things that you can do is get the shop vac and kind of turn it on, have the nozzle pointed in there, and be vacuuming while it's cutting just to minimize the mess. Obviously, I didn't go get the shop vac, but you'd have it running and you could have this nozzle. And you want to use this one because it's high velocity. It'll just increase the velocity. It sucks better. Have it in there and just don't touch the bit with it, but you can be vacuuming up a lot of the mess it's making. Okay, so it returns to the home position. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to undo the clamp, check our part. Voila.
There we go.
Got it?
Yeah.
The only other thing I'd say is when using one of the Da Vinci CNC mills, one of the first things you have to do is stick whatever the part is into the mill and get it in there so it's secured. And this clamp does that for you. If you're going to mill to the edge of a part, you need to use blocks like these, sacrificial pieces, that when the mill goes off the edge, it goes into this wood and not either of these metal clamps. But generally, so what you do is you take an Allen wrench, I don't remember the size, just go around, Zoe. You take an Allen wrench and you loosen the machine screw there, and now this will slide. Don't loosen it too far. If you do, it'll come out of the piece that's in this track, and we can fix it. We can rethread it, but to rethread it, you have to slide it all the way down to that end and do that. So on the part I'm doing, I'm not going to the edge, so what I'm going to do is remove those, put this up against the end here, and slide this with a handle like that, okay, to my left. This is an eccentric shaft, so when I tighten it, once I've tightened it in place, moving this lever will tighten it further. Okay? So you butt it up there with a handle like this, then you take the Allen wrench and you tighten it. You don't have to really wrench on it, but just make it firm. And then you tighten this, and if you can move the whole machine, you're in good shape. Like I said, if you're going to the edge, you'd want to put some kind of block between this metal piece and the clamp, so that when the bit is machining off to the edge, it doesn't machine into the clamp. You can see that this has been machined into probably multiple times. So we want to try to avoid that. It's always best to have it clamped in the center, but this is offset, so if you have a piece this wide, you'll probably be on one side of it, not right in the middle. Okay, so we got this nailed down. It's nice and not going to move. So the next step is to get the bit, the center of this bit, to that corner, because that's where we want it to start. Because in SolidWorks and Mastercam, we've told the machine this is our origin. This is the X. This is the Y. Okay? And this is the Z, of course. So I'm going to use, if I turn this on, and you turn this on by twisting the red and pulling it out, and if the power were on in here, the red light would come on and it would count down to zeros, and I'll show you that in a second. And then you could use these handles to turn it, but the problem with it, using these handles on the servos when the power's on, is the power is engaging the servos and it's harder to turn. So generally you keep the machine off. Then you're going to use this servo, this handle to adjust the up and down, this handle to control the left and right in the X direction, and this handle back here, can you see that?
Magic of editing.
This handle back here will move the whole bed. So sometimes it takes, you can be sitting at the computer and you can drive this with a computer, and of course that's faster, but it also is easy to not see what you're doing and damage things. So I'm just going to go ahead and working to move the bit to that corner that I want. Usually it doesn't take this long. I had everything out of the way so that I could take some pictures this morning. So what you want to be sure to do is get down here and look at the bit and get the center of the bit over the side. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'll be in your way, but I'm looking this way. The center of the bit is now over that corner, and it's just touching the corner. Okay? And now, for the most part, we're ready to mill. Usually what I want you to do initially is you're going to have this up in the air. If you know you're going to mill down 1/8 of an inch, I want you to raise it up, a 1/2 inch or something. I want to dry run it in the air first to make sure that it's going to not damage anything. So what I would do is just raise this up 1/2 inch or so, and now we're going to dry run it in the air. Let me turn the power on so you can see what that looks like. The shop power does need to be on when you're running these two. If you're running the one in the cabinet behind me, that doesn't need shop power. And so you turn it on, red light comes on, should count down to 0. It's ready to go. Okay? So lower the guard and we'll go inside. One other thing, you guys, about when you use the CNC mills, if you don't have power on to the mill and you're at the computer, you're going to get an error. It's going to say, I don't know, I can't remember what it's going to say, but it's going to tell you there's an error. And the problem is it needs to have the machine on to communicate with the machine. So you just go out there, turn the power on, come back in, sit at the computer.